What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in. Young Miami and Diddy are, and sometimes I be too close to Diddy. The couple split after Diddy decided to reduce the.
It was girls that they would pick up on Sunset Strip. At that time, Sunset Boulevard was a very big.
Thursday night was pig night.
They would come up and go into the big dining room, and Hefner's friends and comrades and different stars were told, order anything you want.
They were just 6 miles from revealing new and disturbing details.
Former music producer Rodney Jones. He alleges it was required all in.
Certainly 4.
This was the first Playboy Mansion, and it included the original grotto.
To federal officers about unusual activity at Diddy's house.
So that's why it never made sense.
About something very powerful.
Welcome to the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. Now I want you to hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment in the description below. We're going to get started today. I want to welcome you guys back, especially on iHeartRadio. You guys have been missing me for a few weeks now. My moving studio had a breakdown, so I had to transfer all of my equipment to another moving studio. So now we're here in a new studio, and we're going to keep this thing going, and especially for you guys on iHeartRadio. I almost got canceled on that program, on that platform. But today we're going to talk about Diddy. And I also got some other things that I'm adding to the show, like a movie review. I'm going to talk about certain stocks that are doing well in the market that I think some of you guys need to buy if you're into stocks. Okay, but we're going to talk about Diddy. You know, I feel he is the most prolific gangster of our generation. Big Meech was a generation right before me. Then you had Bumpy Johnson and people like that. But he's not the only one. You got to realize what's going on here, people. Diddy is the one that got caught. You know, when you're looking at guys like Suge Knight, some of these guys have paid their way into gangsterism through money that they got legally, and Diddy's no exception. You got 50 Cent out here now. You have Birdman, him and Slim. You know, you got certain moguls out here, Jay-Z and Beyonce. You got to add Beyonce on to that because she's his wife. Believe me, she knows about most of the things that's going on behind the scenes. A lot of these men have paid their way into gangsterism. And the public needs to understand this. But we're going to break this whole Sean Puffy Combs down into 3 parts. I'm going to do a 3-part series about this. And the first series, which is today, we're going to talk about the fact that this man was a pimp. We're going to talk about the gangster side. We're going to talk about the mogul side on different shows. But today we're strictly talking about the pimp side of Puff Daddy. And I don't feel like none of these women are victims. You can claim these women are victims all you want. It's okay. But I've been around whores. I've been around prostitutes. I've been in them hotel rooms where women have had sex with 4, 5, 6 men a night to get that money. And yes, we sat there. We sat there with that pistol just in case somebody tries to rob us. These women are not victims. Some of these women are scammers. Some of these women feel like there's blood in the water and they act like sharks or barracudas. Let me remind you of a woman who filed charges against the president. She had a blue dress that she put in the back of her closet for 20 to 30 years. I'm not going to say this woman's name because she's out here suing people. But this woman put a blue dress in the back of her closet for 20 to 30 years. That doesn't sound like a victim to me. That sounds like a woman who plotted and planned just in case things didn't go right in her career to get some money. And there's a lot of women out here doing this. They're not victims. Okay? Let's get that understood. Gone are the days, and this is for my talk radio guys. iHeartRadio is the new talk radio. So if you're not seeing me on YouTube, but you're listening to my voice on talk radio is iHeartRadio now. This is where you go to get your commentary on certain things that's happening from a different perspective than a lot of people. And it's a good thing, because sometimes you need detractors. Some of you might think that I'm taking up for Diddy. I'm not. I'm just letting it be known that feminism, and I want y'all to listen closely, feminism destroyed the family structure in America. Not only did it destroy the family structure in America, but feminism destroyed the pimping game. Let me break that down for you. Anybody that's married will always say, especially if they're in the church, that a man should have cover over a woman and her kids, right? That was a pimp's job. So when feminism snatched the male out of the homes and started making all of these single mothers, it affected the streets too. Feminism destroyed the pimps. Now all of a sudden people are looking at pimps like they're womanizers, beaters, abusers. And I remember when I was younger, people like Don Juan used to pull up on the block with 5 or 6 women, open up his trunk, turn on his stereo so his speakers can bump the music real loud, and his girls would get out the car and they would dance. They were advertising. A lot of this stuff has to do with advertising. And all the guys that out there, you know, they would circle up and look at the women, you know, with their ass in the air. And pimps had a lot of respect in the streets because pimping is part of the street life. But feminism destroyed the male structure in the household. So when feminism destroyed the male structure in the household, it bled over into the streets. So now you don't have pimps anymore. You might have a few here and there. Usually these guys that are pimps are already rich. Back in the day, you didn't have to be rich to be a pimp. You just had to have a smooth game and convince a woman, let's go get this money. Now you literally have to be a mogul to be a pimp these days. You got to already have the money. Because, like I said, feminism has destroyed the family structure and it destroyed the streets. Because you got real life gang members out here now who look down on pimps. You got real life gangsters, killers, drug dealers who used to admire pimps, how they dressed, had the latest slip-ons, the latest gangster, the latest, you know, double monk straps, the latest Stacy's. They had the latest brands on. But now you don't hear nothing about guys like Don Juan no more. Because they're moguls now. A lot of these men who are in the pimping game. You got a lot of strays out here now. And if you don't know what a stray is a woman who sells herself. She doesn't have a man covering her. I went back to that word, covering. I remember back in the days, a prostitute used to tell other prostitutes who were strays, you can't work over here. This is this is my man's block. All the women over here work for him. You can come work for him too, but if you don't want to come work for him, you got to go on about your business. And that would filter out strays. They would have to either get with the pimp or go somewhere else. But now, just like you got a lot of fatherless homes, you got a lot of prostitutes and ladies of the night running around here without no pimps. They getting robbed out here. They getting stabbed, shot. A lot of these women are on drugs, junkies. Pimps used to stop a lot of that stuff. Even if they have to stay in a hotel room and watch you have sex, they're gonna make sure that that creep that's buying your sex is not finna rob you and strangle you to death. But we finna get into a show. It's an interesting show, people. And like I said, later on we're gonna do a movie review, and I'm slowly adding things into my show that I think would be a good thing. If you like the show, if you don't like the show, you could be a detractor. I don't care. Leave a comment in the description below.
The Daily Read, your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
Every week we had to go and ask Hef for our allowance.
You would have to go to Hef's bedroom, Friday morning.
We usually like to go at least in twos.
Let me pause this and let you guys know what you're looking at. I'm trying to show you that P. Diddy, which everybody is trying to downgrade now and distance themselves from, he didn't happen overnight. There are orgy parties going on right now in Hollywood. That's the reason why people in Hollywood haven't really spoke up or said anything, because they liked the stuff that P. Diddy was putting down. They attended his parties. And now the new P. Diddy out there, they're attending his parties. You got to understand, this is not stopped. This has been going on since Caligula. And if you don't know who Caligula is, look up Rome and Caligula. Orgy parties and whores and all of this stuff and pimps. This stuff has been going on since the beginning of time. Prostitution is like one of the oldest professions in the world. And the problem is that America and the West has tried to make these women look like victims. You're not a victim, lady. You could have went somewhere and joined a church or a synagogue. You didn't have to be at that mansion spreading your legs. You wanted to be there. And I'm finna show you how P. Diddy tried to mimic Hugh Hefner. Because let me break this down for you guys that love my commentary. Hugh Hefner was one of the biggest pimps in America. And he advertised through his magazines to make everything look legal. Whenever you see a movie star who quote unquote says, I'm going to do Playboy, what she really saying is, I'm broke, I'm not getting no movie deals, I'm going to go sell my body for about a year so I can keep my money flowing. Understand what this is, people. To us who go and buy Playboy magazines, we just looking at, oh, the movie star such and such is doing a feature in Playboy. So we go pick up the magazine and we looking like, damn. But rich men are looking at this magazine as propaganda. These women are promoting themselves through Playboy. these multi-millionaires, it might be an oil tycoon in Saudi Arabia. He might call Hugh Hefner up and say, hey man, I give you $1 million. Let me have sex with that woman. Hugh Hefner arranges it. Some of these multi-millionaires had rooms inside the Playboy Mansion. I mean, dedicated rooms. Sammy Davis Jr., Muhammad Ali, you know, the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. A lot of these men, some of them were married, had special rooms in the Playboy Mansion that it was just dedicated for them. And they would go in there, stay a couple of days, have sex with whatever newest starlet who's not getting no work no more in Hollywood. Everybody know who she is. But when the news people get a hold of it and they say, star such and such, Deborah McCord, we gonna give a fake name to keep from being sued out here. Deborah McCoy done 5-6 movies. She disappeared for 2 years, ain't nobody picking her up no more. She done aged out. Now all of a sudden, all the broke people, or all of the men who make under $100,000, they go pick up the magazine. But the multi-millionaires are picking up the magazine too. It's advertising. All they gotta do is pick up the phone and call Hugh Hefner. Hey man, you know, Diddy tried to do the same thing with the music instead of the magazines. Look at Young Miami. How many of y'all know a Young Miami song? Just think about that for a second. She's trash. Look at some of the entertainers over the last 10 years that Puffy has put out in the industry. They're trash. But he had to do it to keep everything legal. Young Miami was getting $500,000 a month. He dropped her payment down to $200,000 a month. That money was not for her rapping, singing, and all of that. She's garbage. That money was for her services. She needs to be on call whenever one of his homeboys come by his mansion and he says, hey, you want some sex? You want a girl to blow you off? Get on the phone, call Young Miami up. Hey man, come over here. Go ahead in the room and suck him off. There's no money transferring, there's no money changing hands, except for Diddy getting money from whoever the person is, but he's not paying the prostitute. Or let me clarify that. Not the prostitute, the singer or the rapper. What he's doing is he's using the book balance to pay them money through their career. And she has no career. She's garbage. She isn't worth $500,000 a month. It's very few singers and entertainers out here that is worth $500,000 a month. Young Miami ain't one of them. You got to understand how this is going. The woman that got beat up in the hallway, Cassie, she's a high-priced whore. Sometimes Pimp slap the shit out of whores. And the funny thing about it is, the normal man will see somebody like Cassie on the red carpet in a nice blouse, a nice dress, and she's on the arm of P. Diddy, and they thinking, oh, look at them, cute couple, behind the scenes, all the rappers that know P. Diddy know who she is. She's a prostitute. You gotta understand what's going on with this. So now that I set that up for you, I'm finna show you the comparisons to how Diddy the Pimp, we're not talking about Diddy the Gangsta. We're gonna do that on another show. This is gonna be a 3-part series. Diddy the Pimp, the Gangsta, and the Mogul. Right now we're just talking about Diddy the Pimp. And when I said that we might be looking at the biggest gangster since Big Meech or Bumpy Johnson, I think Diddy was bigger than Big Meech and Bumpy Johnson, because Diddy didn't just have his hands in drugs and guns. He had his hands in prostitution, had his hands in music, and he's not the only one. So let's continue on. I'm going to show you the comparisons.
We usually go together,
sit on his bed and say, "Hi, honey, I'm here for my allowance," which was $1,000 a week. The wardrobe allowance was $2,000 for any events or any parties that were being held at the mansion.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel and thank you for tuning in. So word on the street is Young Miami and Diddy are officially over. Now this did come from Media Takeout, and sometimes I be hearing some iffy things about Media Takeout. Now they said the relationship between female rapper Young Miami and Diddy is officially over. Media Takeout has learned, according to a person close to Diddy, the couple split after Diddy decided to reduce the monthly allowance he's been paying Carisha from $500,000 a month to just $200,000 a month.
Let me put a pause on that real quick. $500,000 a month. She gets mad because the payments drop down to $200,000 a month. And I'm gonna tell you why the payments drop down. Because ain't nobody checking for you no more. Diddy pays whores that a lot of people want. He's not gonna keep paying you $500,000 if you ain't worth $500,000, and we ain't talking about your damn music. This is crazy. Let's keep going.
For a little while, he was doing this crazy stuff. I was just looking the other way. Like on Pig Night, I remember finding out what was going on.
Look at this woman. She got to be in her 50s or 60s. She looked like she was loose as hell. She looked like she was a loose woman when she was in her 20s. She looked like she was loose. Just look at how she lounging on that couch. She looked like one of the women that you could just, man, pull your penis out, stick it straight in her mouth. This is what Hugh Hefner was working with right here.
He said, I'm busy in the early part of the evening. Some people are coming over. And then somebody told me what it was. It was a butler day. He said, "It's Pig Night." I said, "What?"
Every Thursday night, Hefner had 2 pimps bring up 5 or 6 girls each in their cars.
It was girls that they would pick up on Sunset Strip. At that time, Sunset Boulevard was a very big prostitution place. That's where you went to pick up somebody.
It was called Pig Night, but we as butlers were always told, do not call them pigs. This was Hefner's term for them. I don't know why he called them pigs.
Thursday night was Pig Night, when the guys on the mansion list were expected to bring women, but they were ranked. There was a hierarchy of whether you were a 10 or an 8 or a 6.
They would come up and go into the big dining room, and Hefner's friends and comrades and different stars, movie stars, television stars, would sit around the table with them. And as the butlers, we would serve them dinner. They were told, order anything you want. Hefner would sit at the head of the table. He would never eat dinner with them. He would smoke a pipe and observe the girls.
When I found out about it, I went down to bedroom 4 where I could look out where they were all laughing and getting drinks and making these girls feel special.
One at a time, the girls were escorted into the front bathroom where the doctor would inspect them for anything that would be detrimental to any of his friends.
Let me tell you what he was inspecting them for. A doctor can inspect a woman for AIDS right there on the spot. Okay? AIDS test, you gotta take the blood and send the blood off somewhere to get tested. So AIDS test wasn't a thing back then. What the man was inspecting the women for is to make sure that they're women instead of men. Let's continue on.
Girls that passed muster would have sex with the different friends of Hefner.
They were just 6 miles from where Diddy was locked up after the judge slammed him, saying the defendant is a danger.
I want to say one more thing about Pig Night, Hugh Hefner's Pig Night. What that sounds like to me is Hugh Hefner had certain police officers that kept him legal, okay? And in order to keep the police officers in line, the commissioner, the chief of police, he would invite these people to rub noses with some of Hollywood's biggest stars. And he would call it Pig Night because people his age used to call the police pigs. You got to understand, you got to read between the lines and connect the dots. Okay? Pig Night was his dedication to the police officers. That way when women come to them saying that he slapped them or there's drugs going on over there, the police will wave it off because they don't want to stop their money coming and the females coming their way. Let's continue on.
Now prosecutors are revealing new and disturbing details from the day that Diddy was seen beating his then girlfriend Cassie in an LA hotel.
Combs can be seen grabbing Ventura and throwing her to the ground.
They claim Combs had been holding a freak-off in his hotel room with a commercial sex worker, and that Cassie had been trying to escape.
My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I was disgusted then when I did it, I'm disgusted now.
Diddy apologized only after CNN broadcast the shocking confrontation worldwide. But prosecutors claimed in court, Diddy texted Cassie in the days after the assault. "The cops are here. I got 6 kids. You gonna abandon me all alone?" She replied, "You are sick for thinking it's okay to do what you've done. I still have crazy bruising."
I'm gonna tell you again. I've said it time and time again. Cassie is not no damn victim. How many people out of the years that she been with Diddy has Cassie seen people get drugged, abused, raped? Cassie is not no damn victim. You got to understand, this woman was probably getting an allowance just like Young Miami. She was probably getting $200,000 to $500,000 a month. Now, there's another little thing, and I want to turn the other camera on so y'all can understand me when I say this. Let me turn my other camera on. I want to look in your face when I say this. There was a rumor or a story going around that Diddy was sitting in a hotel room and was hiring male strippers to have sex with Cassie while he watched. Let me tell you what that is. Because like I told you at the first of this show, feminism destroyed pimping. Not only did it destroy the male in the household, but it destroyed pimping. See, a lot of people who ain't never been a pimp, who ain't never sat in them hotel rooms with some of these women, the average woman can't have sex with no more than 1 or 2 people before she's exhausted and her box is sore. So what a pimp does when he has a known money maker, she's a top-notch woman, she's a top-notch whore, he hires a male bull. This is what we call bulls. These are either male porn stars or male strippers, okay? These men are hung like mules. They have 12-inch penises. Sometimes the pimp might get the front while the male bull gets the back. What the male bull does, he breaks that woman in. He breaks her asshole in, and he breaks her hot box in, to where she's used to having big penises in her. So what happens is, after that, this same woman who used to have sex with 1 or 2 guys a night and make a little bit of money, now she can have sex with 5, 6, 7 guys a night and not be so sore. Because the average man has 5 to 7 inches. The average man. The unaverage man has 11 and 12 inches. You got to understand what what they're doing. People joking and laughing and playing, but you can tell some of these people that's saying this stuff ain't never been in these situations with these prostitutes. And I want to say something to any ex-prostitute, ex-pimp, or current prostitute and current pimp that's hearing my voice, that know what I'm talking about. I want you to leave a comment in the description below. Leave a comment. Because that's what this is. Those rumors going around that he was hiring men to come have sex with her, that wasn't him just being freaky. He was breaking her in. These dudes was probably hung like mules. So instead of her having sex once or twice a night, and he might get $200,000-$300,000, now she can have sex with 5 or 6, 7 rappers. Sometimes she might be able to have sex with 3 or 4 guys at a time. You got to understand what this is, people. Now let's get back to it.
Opportunity wasn't involved in any hard drug use at the mansion, but that was just a lie. Clearly, down the line, we were used for sex. Everything felt good to touch. Everything felt soft, focused, and it was lovely. Usually you just took a half. Now, if you took 2, you'd pass out. It was such a seduction, and the men knew this, that they could get girls to do just about anything they wanted if they gave them a prelude.
This piece that we almost always see in pink or pink cocaine is ketamine, a dissociative drug, something that makes people feel like they're detached from reality. The second component is psychedelics.
Bill Bodner is a former DEA agent. He says despite its name, oftentimes there is no cocaine in the toxic mix of drugs, which includes synthetics like ecstasy, methamphetamine, and benzodiazepines. The drug, also known as 2C, acts as both a stimulant and a depressant.
Very, very cheap to make, and they can kind of tailor the drug to what the drug user is looking for, the perceived effects that the drug user is looking for.
Pink cocaine got its start in Latin American nightclubs as a party drug. Recently, it was linked to Sean Diddy Combs in a lawsuit filed by his former music producer, Rodney Jones. He alleges it was required all employees, from the butler, the chef to the housekeepers, to walk around with a pouch or fanny pack filled with cocaine, GHB, ecstasy, marijuana gummies, and 2C, a pink drug that is a combination of ecstasy and cocaine.
I'm going to pause that right there because like I said, I wanted to add something to the show before we get back into the similarities between Hugh Hefner and Puffy. And from what I've seen, Hugh Hefner was allowed, because he played by the rules, to grow old and die. Puffy didn't play by the rules. You know, I'm not going to say racism played a part in this, but Puffy didn't play by the rules. The drugs are similar. Quaaludes, pink cocaine, Tootsie. The women are similar. The payments every month. The magazine versus the music career. There's a lot of similarities between Hugh Hefner and Puffy. The problem with Puffy is he didn't play by the rules. People knew who Hugh Hefner was. but he wasn't so flamboyant. You hardly ever saw Hugh Hefner on a red carpet. You hardly ever saw Hugh Hefner making multi-million-dollar deals with liquor companies. Okay? So the similarities are there, but Puffy didn't play by the rules. So now I'm finna get into my movie review because like I said, I'm adding some few things to the show. Thank you for that, guys. I just made that that movie clip was I had to add that. That movie clip right there is something special. It's funny. But this is my movie review for this week, and we're looking at From. You want to play game? I wanted to talk about I want to talk about The Penguin. But I'm going to do that next week. The Penguin is also a good show, but I'm not going to spoil that. But this show right here is one of the hardest hitting shows I've seen so far. This actor right here, he's been around for a while, but this is like one of the most dramatic shows I've ever seen him in. I think this guy's from Europe. I don't think he's American. I think he's one of those, like Idris Elba. I think he's one of those European actors who's black, but he comes over here to Hollywood and makes a good living for himself. But this guy right here, man, he's a beast. Let me give you a sample of what I'm talking about. I'm right here. I'm telling you guys, this show is off the chain. If you haven't seen the first season, we're in season 2 of From, and if you haven't seen the first season, you really should check it out. The show is great, and I highly. I'm gonna take a page out of my guy on the Pirate Show. I highly recommend it. The show is good. You need to binge watch season 1 to catch up with season 2 because it has a lot of twist to it, people. A lot of twist to it, and it's an overall good show. But we're gonna get back into the main show, talking about Diddy the Pimp. And again, that movie is called From. And you guys need to go check it out. Find it on your nearest app. No people got apps on their phone. They're getting free movies and stuff like that. Find it on your nearest app. Type in From, and it should pull it right up. Now let's get back into it.
Lisa's Q or Hef's Q or something. Cassandra's cue that enabled certainly 4 and sometimes 5 different prescriptions for the same medication to feed the machine.
Some of you may be shocked to discover that Hugh Hefner's had a Playboy mansion before. In reality, in the 1950s and 1960s...
You see that Marilyn Monroe? That's advertising. Marilyn Monroe was an actress, but she was also an escort. They're not going to tell you that. This is advertising. Plain and simple. Let's get back to it.
Playboy magazine was based in Chicago. Hugh Hefner purchased the 70-room, 30,000 square foot home at 1340 North State Parkway in the Gold Coast district of Chicago in 1959. This was the first Playboy mansion, and it included the original grotto in the basement, which comprised a swimming pool and an adjoining bar, which was ideal for parties.
This mansion is where Michael Jackson lived and passed away in 2009. Just a short distance away is the home of another music mogul, American rapper Sean Diddy Combs. And this is where our story begins. The ground tunnel at his mansion that connects to Michael Jackson's home. According to one version of the story, a neighbor sent an anonymous tip to federal officers about unusual activity at Diddy's house. When the agents arrived, Diddy's team reportedly prevented them from entering. Despite this, the agents decided to search Diddy's newly renovated bedroom. When they moved to the bed, they allegedly found a tunnel hidden under a rug and discovered children's clothes inside the passage.
You're not going to believe this, but there is, in fact, a Diddy and Michael Jackson connection.
Social media users have since raised questions about Michael Jackson's death, with some calling for a reopening of his case and alleging Diddy's involvement. However, it's important to note that there is no evidence confirming the existence of this tunnel, and authorities have not verified these claims.
The front door also had an inviting inscription that stated, "If you don't swing, you don't ring." That should give you a sense of what happened at Hefner's Chicago mansion. A bowling lane, a gaming room, bedrooms for Hefner's Chicago Playboy Club bunnies, and flats owned by close friends or staff were also available. Barbie Benton, Hefner's girlfriend, discovered a 5.7-acre mansion near Los Angeles in 1971. She persuaded Hefner to buy it for $1.1 million, the most expensive property transaction in Los Angeles history at the time. The Playboy founder died there, surrounded by friends, celebrities, exotic animals, and the bunnies.
The DC madam has a lot of people asking.
Before we get into the DC madam, I want to say this. Puffy didn't play by the rules. When he sued them people and won that suit, that's when everything unraveled. Okay? Not only that, Puffy was too out in the open with his business. I did a show a few weeks ago talking about freak-offs and how people act like the 90s never happened. Freak-offs was a normal thing. Some of these 40 and 50 and 60-year-old people that you see walking around today, they were well known to have freak-offs back in the 90s when they was in their 20s and 30s. And the reason why some of these women ain't suing them is because they ain't gonna get no money. We were all poor. It was times we would go to a club and see a group of girls that was cool with us and be like, "Man, y'all come back over to the crib?" Yeah. We play some cards, drank a little bit more, and next thing you know, somebody done took a girl in the back room having sex with her. And next thing you know, everybody got their clothes off. Some of the girls that didn't want to participate, and this is why I say these women ain't victims, because some of the girls that didn't want to participate, when they found out their friend was back there getting tossed up, she'd be like, "Man, take me home. Alright. Sometimes I would take them home. A few months later, once they start seeing their friends, I keep doing it and keep doing it, they done convinced her to do it. So now she's a willing participant in a freak-off. You gotta understand how this is being played, people. At any given time, any one of these women could have said, man, take me home, I'm going home. I'm finna call me an Uber. Y'all wilding out up in here. You got women walking around with their tits out, baby oil everywhere, people making out in the corners, having sex in the corner. I'm gone. At any given time, these people could have got up and left. They didn't. This is why I say these people are not victims. If I know I'm a part of a situation that I feel like it's trash, I'm out. Say it again. If I feel like I'm part of a situation I feel like it's trash and not for me, I'm out. Now, I'm finna talk about two people to end the show up. This is important. We're gonna talk about the DC madam and Epstein. I remember, and I know some of my people that watch my show like for me to tell my stories. I had got custody of my kids, and I was staying in the projects, and there was a female behind me that was basically being ran through by everybody in the neighborhood. She had kids too, so my daughter and her kids used to play with each other. She knocked on my door one day and begged me to take her to Memphis or Arkansas to the abortion clinic. I let her sister watch my daughter and her kids while me and her drove to Arkansas, Little Rock, to the abortion clinic. I told her she didn't have to pay me, but just buy me some lunch, put gas in the car. So she did that. As I'm sitting in the lobby, because you know, if anybody has ever had an abortion, you know that when you go in that place, you can't go in there by yourself. You got to have a driver, because when you come out of there, you're so heavily sedated that you got to have somebody drive for you. So while I'm sitting in the lobby waiting on this girl to come out, I saw a magazine, a Time Life magazine, talking about the DC madam. I didn't know she had died. This woman used to be the DC madam. All of the well-known politicians had her on speed dial. Anytime they wanted to cheat on their wife, they would call her and she would supply a female escort or male escort if that's what they was into. And she had a little black book of all of the politicians. If that woman would have lived, it would have destroyed Washington, D.C. After she got out of federal court, she moved in with her mother down in Florida, and several days later, her mother was looking for her and found her in the shed, hung by her neck, and a suicide note laying on the ground. Now, I'm sorry, people. I don't believe she committed suicide. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. This woman stood on the steps of Congress and told the police, if I go down, I'm taking everybody with me. And her lawyer was standing on there with her. I don't believe for 1 second this woman committed suicide. I don't believe Epstein committed suicide. And the reason why I'm showing these two people is because the end result for Diddy probably is going to be death. I doubt very seriously he makes it all the way to his trial.
Really a feisty, tough, empowered woman who didn't at all seem to me like the kind of person who would take her own life.
The Debbie that I knew in high school and the Debbie that I emailed back and forth with I did not believe that she would do that.
It floored me. It made no sense whatsoever. I talked to her 2 or 3 days before, and we thought we were on track to take an appeal, get her bailed out during the appeal, and continue to fight this thing going forward. So that's why it never made sense. I'm conflicted as to whether Jean's death was a suicide or a very highly organized murder.
After Jean's suicide, there was widespread speculation that she harbored some secrets about some very powerful people here in Washington.
But D.C. Madam, a woman who powerful men feared for what she knew about them. Was it really suicide? The internet is going bonkers with this one.
The night before he died, new documents showed convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein left a meeting with his lawyers to call his mother. She had been dead for 15 years. More than 4,000 pages of records obtained by the Associated Press detail the days leading up to Epstein's death and how Epstein struggled to adapt to life behind bars, awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking involving minors. 2 weeks before his death, the 66-year-old millionaire, who had hobnobbed with rich and famous and had his own private island, could not sleep in the now-closed Metropolitan Correctional Center. He sat in the corner of his New York cell covering his ears to block out the sound of a broken toilet.
Tonight, Jeffrey Epstein, the most important man to see his sex trafficking, was placed on suicide.
Epstein was placed on suicide watch in late July after he was found
I'm doing my show
with marks around his neck.
Hold on for a second.
Records show Epstein described himself as a coward and someone who does not like pain, but according to the documents, denied being suicidal, saying, lots to do for legal case, wonderful life. It would be crazy to take my life. Perhaps the most bizarre revelation in these documents, Epstein mailed a letter to another notorious sex offender, Dr. Larry Nassar, the former U.S. gymnastics team doctor convicted of abusing young girls. Epstein's letter was returned. With no cellmate present, Jeffrey Epstein took his life August 10th as 2 guards sat just 15 feet from his cell, failing to check on him. Prosecutors say the guards slept and shopped online. To avoid jail time, the guards struck a deal with prosecutors and admitted falsifying records.
The business, motherfucker!
Now, I just want to say this, okay, in closing. Because like I said, this is the first part of a 3-part series. We're talking about Diddy, the Pimp. None of these people are victims. Some of these people can hardly sing. Some of these people can hardly rap. These people are basically prostitutes hanging around multi-millionaire moguls. And these multi-millionaire moguls are saying, well, hell, if you're going to hang around, you might as well put a penis in your mouth. And instead of these women and men getting up and leaving, they're doing that. So these people are not no damn victims. I understand the whole Me Too thing, and I understand that there are women out here who are abused. There are women out here who are attacked. But that's not the most of these women. Some of these women are conniving, been in the streets for years, 10, 20, 30 years. Some of these women have held back dresses. They got cum stains on it, nut stains on it, sperm on it. Some of these women, I'm going to give you an example. Jaguar Wright, she told a story that shouldn't have never even been told because it didn't make her look any convincing at all. She told a story about how Common, the rapper, walked up to her while she was asleep on the couch, pulled his penis out and stuck it in her mouth. She never said whether she sucked it or not. But she obviously didn't call the police. She waited 10, 20 years to tell this story. For what? And I'm going to say something to Common. Some of the stuff Jaguar Wright probably saying is true. But the thing about it is, you're doing right by not saying nothing at all. And the reason why you're doing right by not speaking on what Jaguar Wright said is because if she said that so boldly, that means if she sucked your penis and you nutted in her mouth, she probably ran to the bathroom and spit your semen out on a piece of paper or in a jar to prove that you did that. So if you was to come out and say, man, that didn't happen, she got you. Understand something, these women are street women, and no matter how many high-priced, high-class clothes they got on, they're whores. Plain and simple. No matter how pretty they look, no matter how many red bottoms they wear, no matter how many times they get on a red carpet, the people around them in Hollywood know that these women are whores. The people on the outside that's like say the people on the outside that's looking at the whole Cassie situation, where Puffy slapped her around and slammed her on the ground. Old poor world Cassie, not knowing that this woman is a paid prostitute. These people are sick, and they're conniving. I got low tolerance for them because I'm so used to them. I raised 2 girls. I've been a pimp before. I've had several women working for me before. So my tolerance for whores and shady women is so high to the point where I can see them doing something and I already know what the plan is, what they doing, before they even do it. I laugh sometimes at the game, the manipulation they try to pull. I laugh at it sometimes because it's so obvious. But it's not obvious to the people who ain't used to dealing with these women.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Bringing the business.